listening to The Paranormal Lawyer on Night Dreams Talk Radio.
And you guys are live.
Good evening, Gary, and everyone else out there east and west of the Rockies and north and south of the Pleiades and every time zone in between. This, of course, is Michael W. Hall, your paranormal lawyer, coming at you like a cosmic tumbleweed blowing in from some undisclosed location deep within the bowels of an abandoned Nike missile site. And I am excited for the show tonight, folks. You are not going to believe some of the things that we are going to be talking about, including the idea that Paul McCartney might have been replaced with an imposter back in 1966. So we are going to get into that sooner than later with our guest, Tina Foster, who is a worldwide expert on this subject. But first, my longtime friend and paranormal junkie, Vince Inunza, is on the line, I believe, to give us the weekly paranormal news update. Are you there, Vince?
Hi, Michael. Yes, I am. Vince Inunza here.
Izunza, is that right?
Inunza.
See, that's what I'm doing wrong, buddy. I'm going to get that right one of these days. Inzunza. And you have just come back from, if I'm not correct, or maybe you're still down there, the Yelm UFO Festival. Is that right?
Yeah, I've spent the last 3 days at the Yelm UFO Festival. I left it a few hours ago. It should be wrapping up right about now. But yeah, it was a great time.
Oh, I bet the weather was perfect.
The weather was a little too perfect for my taste. I like things a little colder. This was pushing 100 during much of the weekend, but there was a really fantastic beer tent that I spent a lot of my time at.
Thank heavens for that, right? Oh, absolutely. Man. Now, I as the producer director of Pacific North Weird, I want to thank you for constantly digging up the weekly news of paranormal activity around, and I'm just going to let you run with whatever you think we should know about for this week.
Well, I wanted to talk a little bit about my impressions and experiences from the Yelm UFO Festival. That's fresh in my mind, and for anyone out there who doesn't know, this takes place in Yelm, Washington. Yelm has a very deep connection with the concepts of ufology and the paranormal, mainly because of their association with Ramtha's School of Enlightenment. Ramtha is this entity concept that this woman named J.Z. Knight says it embodies or takes over her body and teaches ancient mystical wisdom to students of the school. But as a result, we've got a very interesting New Age presence at the Yelm UFO Festival, which I love. I love crystals, I love sacred geometry, and I love aromatic soaps. So it was a really nice place to be. But on my first day there, I was approached by this eccentric French woman, and she had said that she had driven her van from Quebec all the way to Yelm, Washington, and she was living in her van at that time just to be near Ramtha, to be near.
Oh my gosh!
Team. Yeah, it was really interesting. And she had told me that she had just learned to recall her past lives, and that she had had a dream that she was remembering a past life where she was a Sasquatch mother taking care of her little offspring.
I remember your Facebook post on that, and that was kind of a revelation to some of the folks thinking, well, can you have past lives of different kinds of entities that are not human, for instance, right?
Yeah, it's something I don't think about a whole lot in terms of past lives, but I assume that would be entirely possible. I mean, maybe I was even like a Loch Ness monster in one of my past lives, or a chupacabra.
That would explain a whole lot, Vince.
I do get really angry when I see goats, so I mean, I don't know.
Well, tell us about the feeling of the conference. I would imagine they had some very serious speakers there, but probably a lot of conspiracy aficionados and other folks. Is that right?
I didn't see as many of the conspiracy aficionados, at least in terms of the presence of the festival itself. I got a much more kind of happy-go-lucky hippie vibe from the whole thing, which was really nice.
Yeah.
There was a lot of tie-dye. There was a lot of really goodwill and peaceful vibrations coming from everyone. And I kind of sound like Timothy Leary right now talking, but it was cool. And it seemed like a sharp contrast from, say, the McMenamin's UFO Festival down in McMinnville, where that kind of takes over an entire downtown corridor, and that becomes UFO Central for a weekend. The Yelm UFO Festival happens on a big, flat piece of field, just off the side of the Yelm Highway, and you're right under the sun, and you've got a big stage with music happening, and you've got didgeridoos playing, and it's just got this nice Woodstock vibe, but, Woodstock in space.
Oh, that is kind of interesting. And tie-dye is making a comeback, sounds like.
At least in Thurston County.
All right. Well, tell us a little bit about maybe an impressive speaker that you were able to listen to that maybe you still remember some of the message that they just put forth.
To tell you the truth, Michael, I spent the entire festival just on the grounds listening to music. I did not attend any of the speakers this year.
Okay.
The speaker tent, the speaker area, is actually far removed from where the actual UFO festivities are happening. This is only the second year of the Yelm UFO Festival, so I do notice that they are still going through birthing pains. Still trying to find their own identity, which is really interesting to watch. But at this point, it's never been something where I felt compelled to go see a speaker there. It doesn't seem like that type of festival to me, even though there are speakers that are.
Yeah. Well, so it sounds to me it's more like a burning saucer event, like a Burning Man kind of thing out in the desert, huh?
Yeah, exactly. Although, did you know that there actually is an event called Burning Saucer?
I know that. That's kind of why I wanted to mention that with Scott Schaefer and some of the gang out there putting that event on every year. And you were a speaker. I remember last Burning Saucer.
Yeah, the last three Burning Saucers actually. I've been on the other end of a microphone talking about something silly to the audience. And this year we had just gotten back from Roswell, New Mexico on a road trip where we were starting a turf war between the Northwest and the Southwest, kind of like Tupac and Biggie. But I was reporting back on our trolling of Roswell to the attendees of this past year's Burning Saucer.
Yeah. Matter of fact, let's tell the audience a little bit about Burning Saucer for next year and maybe give it a plug. Tell them a little bit about it and maybe how they can find out about the details.
Well, Burning Saucer is always on June 21st of every year, be it a weekday or a weekend. And this is to commemorate the June 21st, 1947 Maury Island incident, which involved some craft having some engine trouble and catching on fire and a bunch of badness happening afterwards, which we don't have enough time to get into right now. But the burning saucer event itself is this good-natured, tongue-in-cheek commemoration of that saucer catching on fire and all the events that transpired. So there's a telling of the story. There are cocktails. There's music usually, and at the end there's a ritual burning of a flying saucer effigy. Kind of like
yes.
It's pretty rad.
Kind of like Burning Man, of course, in the desert.
Yeah,
but, the actual idea of the Maury Island incident, most people might not know that was the first modern-day UFO sighting in America, United States, even before Roswell. Is that right?
And yes, and 3 days before the Kenneth Arnold sighting, which is considered one of the more famous ones of the Summer of the Saucers of 47. But yes, Maury Island was the first.
Yeah, and indeed, as you mentioned, this one of the saucers that were sighted appeared to be dropping molten slag and was having a difficult time. So the idea of the burning saucer is pretty apropos, I believe.
Yeah, it's a great commemoration, and I think ritual is important. And it's cool to get together as a species, as a community, wherever something weird may have happened, and do some sort of ritual to commemorate that, even if it's just having some drinks and lighting a small flying saucer on fire. Those things are important.
Well, exactly. And we do have a lot of Pacific North weird up here in the state of Washington, of course. So any other things that we need to know from last week to this week that we want to let the folks know about?
Well, right now I am just going into full research mode for a series of videos that I'm going to be editing and releasing sometime this year. A bunch have to do with some rather new UFO alien cases that me and my team have discovered that have taken place in Lewis County, Washington. We're hoping to go to Squirrel Fest this year in Longview. That is August 18th, and Longview, Washington is known for having the very first squirrel bridge in the world. I guess there was this busy neighborhood street a few decades ago, and squirrels kept on getting squashed by cars. So a very gentle person decided to create a bridge that will go over this one street and allow the squirrels to get to their destination unflattened. And it became a big thing, and now they have an annual Squirrel Fest, and people dress up as squirrels, and there's rock bands playing, and so we're hoping to go there and cover that this year as well.
Yes, well, that does that you can't get much more paranormal than that, even though it is not necessarily a cryptid. But yeah, I can see those. Remember, there's that old commercial about these squirrels that kept causing wrecks. I think it was an insurance company on television with the squirrels causing wrecks all over the place. So there you go. They were thinking ahead on that one. A squirrel bridge. Can't beat it.
Squirrel bridge helps everyone.
Yes. Well, Vince, we will want to hear, obviously, about some of those video projects that you're putting together this summer and the updates about some of those new, well, they're not new, they're historic, I understand, UFO sightings that you have newly uncovered coming up in the future, hopefully, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to have a lot more information and adventures to report back once I've kind of dived a bit more down this rabbit hole.